What's up everyone, Emerald here from Emerald's Daily Carry. It's raining cats and dogs in Seattle, which means it's a perfect time to be testing out the agency guide bag that I have on here. So we're gonna take it for a spin. Let's go for it. All right, so inside of this bag, I have a roll of toilet paper and we're gonna check out if the roll of toilet paper does get wet. Now, because this is RF welded, there in theory shouldn't be any leaks inside of this bag. And there's a little stream that we're putting the bag in just because, it's raining here in Seattle. Just gonna really test out those zippers there. And check that out. All right. I believe that this is adequately wet. Let's check out our toilet paper roll. Dry as a bone. So it was able to go through a stream, but can it be dunked underwater? Let's check it out. We're out here in the park. Nobody else is out here in the park because it's raining like hell, but we're gonna do our submersion test here. So we have a nice little lovely pond. We're just gonna hold the bag under the water and see how it does. So I don't know if you can kind of tell, but the bag floats, and that's because it's airtight, which is another feature of RF welded bags. If you want something to be fully waterproof, it needs to basically have no seams and be airtight. And so this is another example of like how you can see that it's floating on the water. That's an indication that it is actually airtight. Okay, now let's flip it over. Now I'm really just putting a lot of pressure on here. I'm gonna have to wash this off when we get home because I don't know what has been inside this water. But I feel like this is a good enough test. We're also gonna test this valve and see if it's leaking or not with the water. Just bobbing up and down in the water, just really getting it soaked in there. All right, and I think that's enough. Let's shake that bad boy off. Ugh. I don't know if you can tell just based on my clothes, but it is indeed raining pretty hard here in Seattle. Okay, moment of truth. Is our toilet paper still dry? Look at that, guys. Look at that. That's some dry toilet paper right there. If you ask me, let me see. Yeah, I can wipe the water off of my face with the toilet paper because it's still dry. We also took this bag out to Olympic National Park a few days ago. During our stay at Olympic National Park, we were able to do a 7-mile hike, and it was about 3.5 hours of really heavy rain. So it was a really awesome opportunity to test this bag out as far as its waterproofness. So just to recap, we dunked it in a street lake. We put it underwater in a park. We put it in the rain overnight, and we took it on a hike for 3 hours. So I think that we can confidently say that this bag has definitely been through its paces and is 100% waterproof. Speaking of that 100% waterproofness, let's just talk about the specs now that it's not raining cats and dogs. So this is actually an IP67 rated bag, which means that it's fully dustproof and it can be submerged underwater for 30 minutes in a meter of water. The other specs that we want to talk about is that this bag is listed weight of 17 ounces, so it's just a little bit over a pound. So for all you homies that are very weight conscious, this bag has got you covered, and it's also listed as 10 liters in capacity. There are 2 optional accessories, both listed at $55 each, the Vista and the Core. We're going to talk about both of those accessories as well later in the video, but they're going to definitely elevate the way that you can use this bag.
All right, now let's talk about the features of the agency bag here. First off, we have a compression valve. Like we said while we were dunking this into the lake, this is a really important feature to make sure that this thing is actually airtight. So what that means is basically close the bag up. You can remove all of the excess air that is inside of this bag through this one-way air compression valve. The Vista also has this feature, which means you can compress, like a puffy jacket or something like that, and it kind of acts like a vacuum sealed bag in that way. On the back of the bag, you have 4 Hyperlon tabs, and this is going to be used for the G clips here. And you can attach it in a bunch of different ways to have backpack carry, which is what I have here. If you had it like this, that would be sling mode. And then if you had it just one way, that would be briefcase mode. So this bag has 3 different ways that you can carry it, which is really cool and versatile. The one thing that I don't like about it is specifically the attachment system. I'm not a huge fan of G clips in general, just because there's a lot of pressure that you have to put in order to release it and to close it. And specifically for this model, the Hyperlon tab that it's going into is almost the same width as the actual G clip itself. Now, if you're using this bag in its normal use case, which is like wet, rainy, cold, possibly weather, this is really hard to do if it's cold. Right now it's about 50 degrees, so it's about there. It's very easy to detach this. In theory, as you can see, I'm struggling here. You have to basically pinch this and then release this lock mechanism. And there's just not a whole lot of maneuverability inside of this clip. And especially if one of the main key selling points of this bag is its versatility in carry, having this be a friction point on a bag that kind of already has a little bit of friction built into it just because of the nature of being a waterproof bag, which we're going to get into later in the video. This is not a really great touch point for me. It's going to be kind of a set it and forget it type of situation. In theory, you shouldn't have to be messing with this quite a lot once you get your stuff dialed in and you kind of have a carry style that you enjoy. But on the go, on the run type of thing is your jam. This is not really going to be the solution for you. Another feature that we have to talk about that makes this thing waterproof are the zippers. So these zippers, they are RF welded. The whole bag is RF welded. We kind of already talked about that. So that means that there are no stitches in this bag. Everything is seam sealed, which is awesome. You have an anchor pull. That's like the type of zipper puller that this is. And in general, waterproof bags that are of this style, you're going to have problems with the zipper in terms of how smooth it is to open and how much force and pressure you have to put into it to actually make it move at all. This bag does have lubricant, and you can put lube on these types of zippers, and it does make that situation a little bit easier. The way that this works is that there's a little hole here at the top. There's a stoppage right before that point, and you're gonna have to make sure that you fully engage the zipper all the way to the back of the zipper line. Otherwise, there's going to be a hole in here, and that's how your waterproof bag is no longer going to be waterproof. This bag has 2 Hyperlon tabs here at the bottom and the top of the bag for you to like kind of get a little bit more leverage to get that bag open. One last thing to note about the bag before we move on. So as you can see, once you start to, pack it out and put stuff inside of it, the air inside is going to make the bag a little bit deformed and not completely the same as when you're wearing it and there's nothing inside. So as you can see, I have the core inside of here, and there's a little bit of disformation happening with the bag. This is, again, very normal and natural for this type of bag, but just keep that in mind. It's not going to look as pristine as it might look when it's empty.
So we already talked about a lot of the waterproof features of this bag, and you might be thinking about some use cases in your mind where this could be a really good feature for you. Well, with the Vista, which is an accessory that you can buy separately, you can actually use that as a separate wet-dry compartment. I've also used it on a daily basis as far as when I'm going out and about, and let's say it's raining, I put my wet rain jacket inside of the Vista, and that way my rain jacket doesn't get all of my other contents in the bag wet. When you live in a climate like Seattle, rain kind of happens all the time. It's one of the rainiest parts in America. So I have definitely gotten a really good use out of these features. But what about your normal day-to-day, like your office job? What's that going to look like? Let's take a look.
So this is the core insert from Agency. It's a $55 additional accessory. Basically, it's like a tech caddy is how I would think of it. I kind of loaded it out with a bunch of different stuff, and we're just going to go over the pocket layout. So right here you have a water bottle pocket. It's a very stretchy. I have a normal size 16-ounce water bottle in here. I have a couple of peripherals that's not going to be able to fit in these lay flat pockets, so I actually also put it inside of here as well, which includes my charging brick, my mouse, and I have a flashlight pen that you can see there. I think I'd rather put this in the Vista insert just to make sure that it's also in its own contained waterproof thing. I would much prefer to have this pocket be more pockets like these on this side, but maybe a little bit bigger, to house some bulkier stuff. What I do have inside is my SSD. I have a USB-C cable to charge my laptop, and then I have my SSD cable here. In front of that, we have a smaller zippered pocket. It's pretty flat, so you can fit things like business cards in here. I have some mints, and on top of that, we have a larger zippered pocket that goes along this entire perimeter. I have my really bulky keys in there, my AirPods, my slim wallet, I have a MagSafe charger, and I have a pen. In the back here, you have a lay flat pocket. This is good for a notebook, for example. I have a pretty thick A5 notebook, and I have a 16-inch MacBook Pro inside of that. So altogether, all of this is what I was able to fit inside of this insert, which was able to fit inside of the 10-liter bag.
Now that we've covered all the basics of the bag, let's go back inside where it's warm and dry, do our bean test, and wrap this thing up with our final thoughts.
All right, so we're back here in the studio and we're gonna do our bean test. I don't know where my 1 liter measuring cup is. I was looking for it for about 15 minutes. So we're gonna do a little bit differently this time. I'm going to basically just fill this bag and then I'm gonna measure the literage with my handy dandy Home Depot bucket. It's got literage on the side here. So once I'm done filling up this bag, I'm just gonna dump the contents of the bag inside of here, and that's gonna give us our literage. Let's go. That's fully empty. Just trying to smooth out those beans, get them to be nice and compact. And I would say, based on this, we're hitting right on the money at 10 liters. I didn't fill this bag all the way up to the tippy top, just so that I had a little bit of play here with the zipper. So this bag can definitely fit a little bit more than 10 liters if you know what you're doing. So after putting this bag through its paces and scoring it against our analytical rubric, we're gonna give this bag a 76%, which is a C. And C means meets expectations according to us. It meets our expectations in terms of what a waterproof bag is supposed to do. It's 100% waterproof, it's airtight, and it does that. And it does a little bit extra on top of that, which could be the deciding factor of you getting this versus something else. One of them being that it just looks really cool. I think that the aesthetic of this bag is super sleek, it's really minimal, and it's gonna look awesome in an urban environment, which I think is kind of where it's going. You have that sleek black box look going on here, and I think I really like it a lot. The other thing about this that I like is that it's a really versatile ecosystem within the category of products. So you have the main guide bag, but we're also able to take a look at the 2 available inserts. We have the Core and the Vista. These are both $55 each. They are sold separately, but they do add to that versatility and the way that you can use this bag in different situations. So the Core we've already talked about, but this is kind of more of your laptop EDC kind of caddy situation. And the Vista is basically a compression bag that you can pair with any other bag that's not a part of the agency system, but it is very specifically sized to fit inside of the guide. So if you do end up going the agency route, you're gonna have a lot of versatile options in terms of inserts and the way that you carry the bag. But there's still some things that you need to keep in mind if you're gonna go this route with a waterproof bag. Now it's RF welded, right? It means no seams, completely airtight. Waterproofness is at the top of this bag's priority list, which just means that you're gonna have a little bit of trade-offs in terms of the zipper functionality and quick access. And if you're gonna go with the agency route with all of the additional accessories, this bag's gonna be roughly around the $200 mark, which for a 10-liter bag, the volume to price ratio is gonna be pretty high. Now this bag is really well made. The quality of the materials here is really excellent. So you're not skimping out on that. Your mileage may vary as far as if you think that that is worth the bang for buck. And finally, let's quickly talk over some improvements that we would love to see in a version 2 of the bag. So the bag is very oriented vertically in terms of the logo, and a couple of the inserts are also vertically aligned. But the way that this bag actually opens is horizontally on this side. I would love to have some of the inserts and maybe some of the branding be a little bit more aligned with this style of opening. In the back here, we've already kind of talked about our troubles with the G-hooks and these Hypalon tabs. So I'd love to have these a little bit bigger, or even better yet, have Fidlock or something else that's a little bit easier to on the go quickly adjust this into a different carry style. I would also love to see a handle in the next design, maybe something right here. I would even just take some Hypalon that was a little bit longer so that I just had something to grab onto, so that when I'm ripping this zipper open, I have a little bit more leverage when I'm doing that because these zippers are a little bit tighter to open. I know that's gonna add a ton of weight, and that is one of the positives of this bag is that it's super light. It's less than a pound. So everything that I just said is gonna add more weight to it. But I think the functionality aspects of some of the things that I mentioned is gonna make this bag a lot more friendly to use because we're already kind of fighting against the grain here with waterproof bags being already a very friction experience just for the nature of the category. Not necessarily anything that agency bags in general are doing wrong. But as far as the brand agency, you know, they're a new player on the game, and I would say kudos and props for having a pretty well thought out first run at like a product. It's really exciting to see other people's takes on specific carry problems. This bag particularly solves a problem for me just because I do live in a very wet environment where a waterproof bag would serve my needs. If you live in Seattle or somewhere also wet, this might be a really good option to look at. Thank you again to Agency who sent out this bag and the inserts for free in exchange for this review. We were able to test this out quite a bit for the past couple of months. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, you hit the notification bell, you hype the video, you comment, you share. There's a bunch of stuff you can do now to show engagement on YouTube besides watching this video to the end. Again, there's going to be a ton of affiliate links down in the video description. It's going to be able to help me out so that I can keep making videos like this. But if that's not your vibe, there's all the things that I just mentioned because YouTube just keeps adding more stuff. Well, that's going to do it for this one. My name's Emerald from Emerald's Daily Carry. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.